those that are coming in, love and light, high vibes and positivity. Happy full moon. Greetings. Welcome. I know I'm throwing y'all way off. There's so much changing and shifting. And I'm learning to flow with it. Okay. I'm learning how to do that. Somebody that's used to, oh, bloomy bloom. I'm like a fucking machine. So to get me to slow down, yeah, to get me to slow down is like, okay, girl, we doing some restructuring here. All right. But anyway, I know I'm shaking up the game, the regularly programmed schedule or scheduled program, right? But just hang in there. I promise y'all, I never end up, disappointing. You just got to hang in there with me. Now, I want to talk about domestic violence being normalized. And for those of us, if we're able to be honest with ourselves and our experience, our background, our journey, our growing up, it may be hard to look at, it may be hard to acknowledge and hard to admit, but it'll tell you a story about how you ended up where you are. Okay, how you became what you became and what you started creating and allowing in your life as normal. So for some of us, domestic violence was normalized. And when I say domestic violence, let's take off any limits to that. Okay, it comes in various different forms, but certainly including, but not limited to, physical violence, mental, emotional, psychological, financial, sexual, any way where there's something being abused. Okay? Domestic, meaning, in domestic situations, home life, relationships, the things that should be the safest and the most nurturing and the most loving environments turning into a place of trauma, drama, abuse, negligence, one thing and another. Okay, and I'm sorry if it's lagging here. So, yeah, on my side. So I'm sorry if it's breaking up. So, to tell a story. Now, this is going to help you guys as you're evaluating people in your life too. Because, as you're trying to heal, change, and transform, you become aware of yourself and you make those changes. But then it also starts to get you in the energy of becoming aware of what's around you or what you're choosing to be around you or to interact with. So as you grew up in life, was domestic violence normalized? In your culture, was domestic violence normalized? And what do I mean by that? Was it made light of? Hell, in some cases, was it even celebrated? Okay, or laughed at or looked upon as some kind of a sick joke. When I grew up, as I was growing up, I saw many things, okay? Yeah. Oh, Bloomy Bloom. She just looked that way, but I was always paying attention. I watched a lot of abusive stuff that people probably wouldn't think happened. Some people were in the knowledge and the know of some of the stuff, and then there was a lot of people who didn't know because, a lot of our cultures are very good at cover up. Good at that. So I told you guys the story. I gave you guys one example before. This has been several months back. If you all remember, I gave you a story of something I saw play out when I had to be in elementary school. I had to be because my maternal older sister was in high school at that time. And there was a girl. I don't know the full story as to what ended up happening between her and my maternal older sister. I don't know if there was some kind of it's high school. If there was some kind of rift, if they didn't like each other, if there was words exchanged. Y'all know how it is. I mean, we grew up in Compton. Yeah. So that's why I tell people, you don't know me. okay? So just be on chill status. I just look like this. I just sound people don't have a clue. But anyway, I digress. So something happened. I do remember that, okay? Because back then it was like, back then the fights and the stuff would come, you know, you get off the bus, bitch. Like back in them days, the school bus, it was different. So you hear all the loud and the rowdy and the kids, you know, getting off the bus and stuff. And it's like, wow. And so you see all this hoopla. So I remember seeing that and looking around and observing, like, what's going on? What is it? Because this all took place on the street in which I grew up on, by the way. Now, then, my mother played a role in it. She stepped in. Some of you may say, well, how'd that happen? I really don't know, quite honestly. At that time, all I remember is I know that my mom lived near. Me and my maternal older sister, we were not raised by her. We were raised by my maternal grandmother. But my maternal mother sometimes would live around. Okay, she would be either sometimes across the street, in some cases next door. And I think this was like within that time span where she either was living next door or she was living across the street. So I don't know I can't remember how the hell did she even get involved. I don't know if she heard or saw, you know, because it was kind of loud and rowdy. And so she ends up getting involved, like literally, okay, physically, literally, with the situation. Now, there's going to be some of you out there that would say, okay, well, hell, somebody's parents need to get involved, or the cops or something, like, you know, the higher ups or the more mature folks. Somebody should be, and not letting it go too far. I mean, ideally, that's what the adults and the grown-ups are for. So, but that's not what happened. My maternal mother got involved. I just remember seeing aspects of the fight. My mom ended up getting on top of this teenage girl. The girl's nose was bleeding. Bad deal. Okay. Now that's that incident. I told you guys about that some time ago. I saw that. I also saw how that was looked at as an okay and even celebrated to some degree. Yes, celebrated that she had stepped in and beat up an underage girl. Okay? Now, as time proceeded, I've seen many other incidents of violence in my culture, my surroundings, in my growing up, and the attitude that this is because we're talking about it being normalized. When I was maybe in the age range of, oh God, and I can't be quoted because this shit is old, okay? But when I was in the age range, this is elementary, had to be, because my grandmother died when I was in the 7th or 8th grade. So this had to be elementary, okay? At this time that I'm referencing now, my mother was, she was married to one of her previous, I can't count the exact number, bitch, but it was one of the previous ones, okay? And from what I can remember about this whole dynamic, because I think they lived next door at some point, or they moved in the next door to us at some point. So on the surface in this dynamic, it looked like this was like a cool little situation. Like she was helping him. He was helping her, maybe. It had this appearance, maybe on the surface, for a while. But behind the scene, in the background, I learned and watched other stuff. We're talking about normalizing domestic violence. People think kids don't know. Kids are very perceptive. So She was physically abusive to him and mentally abusive, emotionally abusive, financially abusive. Okay? We were aware, we were in the know of this happening even as children. Okay? And the attitude about all that was something that was normalized and even laughed at, like getting off of taking advantage of this person that was like he was like he was a veteran and he had some kind of issues or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And so it was very exploratory of his situation for gain. And as we grew up, we watched this normalize. Why am I continue to say it? Because this shapens how we view things and our attitude about it. That's the purpose of what I'm saying. So in other words, you experience something, you watch something as a child and a young adult, and you watch the responses, or you watch how people feel about it, how they talk about it, how they deal with it. And this shapes your perception. Was domestic violence normalized in your life as a young age? Like, that's the way it is, that's cool, that's okay, as long as you're getting your way. If you're like, were you a part of anything like that growing up? And if we don't deal with that, we become older people down the line that become just like that. And you'll end up sitting back, laughing at beating up some poor unfortunate soul, some mentally disabled man, robbing them, taking advantage of them like it's a joke. You end up celebrating that kind of shit like it's cute, like it's a flex, like it's something to be proud of. And this is the things that I'm sharing. This is none of this stuff, and I only share bits and pieces of shit. But none of this is nothing to be proud of or celebrated or looked at as it makes you, that very twisted thinking that it makes you what? It makes these types what? This is sad. Because it shapes the people of tomorrow. And if the people of tomorrow that was in these environments don't deal, they become like them or worse. They become people going about assault and battery charges every year because they inherited it and didn't deal with it. And it's something that is downplayed or looked upon as some type of a badge of honor. You want a badge of honor for, as a grown-ass adult person, beating up an underage child, or taking advantage of a man that was a veteran and didn't have all his capacities. I'm just using these as an example because this stuff happens today. You think that's a flex? They think it's a flex. It's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of utter moral failure. It's a poor example. See, everybody wants the younger generations to put us on pedestals or put them on pedestals and praise and worship and adoration and respect. What fucking examples are we leaving? It ain't about just the things that we just say, but by way of our actions and behavior and conduct and all of those things, what kind of examples, what are we showing the latter that we feel so entitled to have some fucking respect? Are we reinforcing domestic violence and we think people ought to respect us? Is that who we are? And see, I'm doing this, I know, because see, I can talk this way first and foremost, my culture, where I come from, boom, bitch, just my life story, bitch, y'all. But I'm poo-pooing on some shit. I'm doing this on purpose because it's like we want a lot of honor, but we don't want to live honorably. People want to talk about be respectful, but is our conduct respect worthy? How are we living and treating people? No matter what our age is, no matter what the birth order is, no matter what the relation is, how are we treating folks in life? What are we teaching those after us? What are we displaying before them? Not our sermons, not our preaching, not our fake shit. The way we live. What are we showing them? Are they watching you sit up laughing about domestic violence and you think they ought to respect you? We got this stuff backwards, man. With age should come a greater responsibility to be held to accountability, to be a decent being. Not just throwing about titles out there to browbeat people and make folks feel like they ought to just respect. Is it respect worthy? People want to have a seat in a position to have a voice and to influence people that's not deserving. What do I mean by that? I'm not talking about perfection. I'm saying people that willfully choose day in and day out, even well up into their old age, to do fucked up shit, yet want to be a voice of influence over someone else just by the sheer fact of their age. Or their birth order. Or their relational position. Means nothing. Because see, a lot of this type of stuff, like I said, is the shaping the people of tomorrow. Creating the monsters of tomorrow. Which are we doing? Are we creating the monsters of tomorrow? Or are we creating healthy, balanced, helping to foster? Don't get me wrong. I know it's not all on us or all on the older generation entirely. We all make our own decisions, but you all know what I mean by this. Because some would say, well, how did Blooming end up being different? Listen closely to what I'm saying. I said, as soon as I came on here, I said, we will end up becoming just like it if we don't heal, change, and transform by act of our will. If we don't actively, creatively participate in this stuff, we become it. Because it's all we know. You either become the one that's abused or the abuser. If that was the environment in which you came from, where domestic violence was normalized, you're going to either become the one who's always abused, which I've already experienced that, or an abuser, which is what's mostly in my blood. If people think it's cute and funny, these should be clear indications to folks that consider themselves relatively heart activated or humane, okay? We're not talking about perfection, but humane. Let me give an example. Somebody may say, well, people make mistakes. Absolutely. But we're talking about, do they change? Because see, here's the thing. The very examples that I just gave, right? If there had been any kind of real change and transformation in such of a person, then you're going to see, sense, and feel something about them and their conversation relating to it. It's no longer something that's talked about with glee or like you're supposed to get some kind of cool points. It's no longer something that's going to be laughed at, because why? A person that has went on a journey to heal and awaken is shame. They become, and I'm not talking about the toxic shame. I'm saying to where it's like they're not proud of that shit. When you come to a place of like, you for real healing and shit, bitch. Like for real, like not the shit we just put on for the social media and church and stuff, but I'm talking about the for real. When you come to a place of for real, you're embarrassed. You're really regretful and remorseful of such conduct. This is not something you want to back down memory lane, bitch. If you do, it'll be more of a teaching moment where you're more remorseful and like, listen, please don't do that. Don't be like that. That was not okay. And I'm not getting ready to sit here and have a conversation like it's something cute. I should have been ashamed of my damn self. That was somebody's child. They should have put me in jail, bitch. That was not something that you want to put on no plaque and get in no group and laugh at like it's cute. See, that's somebody for real that's healing. Like, listen, because they're trying to be a precautionary tale now. They're like, no. Unfortunately, I was a shitty example. You know what I'm saying? They're like, no, please. And not only are they saying that, but you can see the difference in their conduct as well to back it up. They don't support anything to do with violence. They're not going to tolerate that. They're going to stand up for certain things. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just a bunch of lip service to look like they transform. Has domestic violence been normalized to you? The reason I became different is because first and foremost, I was the receiver. I was on the receiving end of the violence in different forms. Because remember I said there's more than one form now. And I was disgusted. I have been disgusted since I was a child at the things that I saw. I was appalled. It was a part of why I didn't want to go down the arenas of where I seen this stuff thrive. It's a part of what took me. It's a part of why I was like, I don't want to be a drug addict. I don't want to be an alcoholic. I don't want to be, it's a part of why I did that, because I saw the monsters. I saw what people become because I saw the monsters. I saw what people become. And I was like, nah, I'm good. I ain't saying I'm perfect, y'all, so please get your chonies out of the bunch. That ain't what I'm trying to imply. Okay? But I went on the path of seeking truth sincerely. And I decided that through my mistakes and failures and ups and downs that I didn't want to be that way, that I wanted to become a different. I decided that through my mistakes and failures and ups and downs that I didn't want to be that way, that I wanted to become a different kind of parent, that I wanted to own my shit, that I wanted to be a good example, that I didn't want to continue on abusive ways and toxicities, that I didn't want to celebrate that kind of stuff. I didn't want to downplay it. I don't want to get together in groups and talk about people. And see, people will take it wrong, like you think you know, too good or snooty patooties or whatever. But the truth of the matter is, when you start healing, you realize how fucked up it is, and how low vibrational it is, and how two-faced it is. Because it be in the one group saying this, and then if the motherfucker in your face, you grinning and shit. That's fake as fuck. It's fake. And you get to a place where you want nothing to do with it. It's like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to be a part of y'all's group conversation because I'm not interested in sitting up and talking about people. I don't want to talk. I don't want to be a part of y'all's group conversation because I'm not interested in sitting up and talking about people. Like, we got jurisdiction, bitch. Like, fix your own shit. Worrying about somebody else. This is how I became different. It's how I'm still becoming different. I choose to not participate in that type of stuff. I choose to not participate in that type of stuff. I choose to not associate with it. And then I choose to call it out. Because these also be the same people who they try to go about like they're in some kind of high moral standings, and they're not. We're not in high, listen, I'm sorry if this bothers people, but it's just not one of us. We're not in high moral standings if we're conducting, celebrating, supporting, covering up, laughing at any of the aforementioned. Sorry. Because this has nothing to do with any types of subscriptions that we subscribe to. As if that's supposed to erase our grotesque conduct that we willfully, continually choose. And I keep saying that because there's always people out there somewhere that's like, well, everybody makes mistakes and can change. You're correct. Absolutely. Yes, sure. Sure. Not many do, though. A lot of people use that very phrase as an excuse to stay fucked up and to be forever saying that same shit. But it's no longer a mistake when it becomes pathology and it's premeditated. It's no longer just that at this point. When it's become ingrained in who you are and how you conduct life. Now this is pathology. Now this is creeping into the realm of sadistic, where now it's so fucked up you get off on the toxicity. Some people do get off on being messy, even if it's behind the scene. This is where we have heard the phrase, throw the rock, hide your hand from. Because it be people that are lonely, gaping hole, don't want to heal, don't want to deal, all these issues there, whether they want to admit it or not. And the only way they can get any kind of feeling or feel anything is intruding in other people's lives, trying to get people to have to be stuck with them in some kind of way, shape, form, or fashion. And this is very sad. But we collective, with this full moon, there's never going to be a day where someone is going to come to you and pick you up. Let me just tell you now, to come and pick you up and take you out of something, we will have to heal and ascend through and make some hard choices in life. Don't think for one moment that my journey has been easy or that it was cinchy for me to just cut off and walk away. Actually, It's some of the most painful things you'll ever do. I saw something online today that rang true. Every last one of us have it in us innately to want to be connected to our family. This is why family is the target that's used to destroy you most of the time, because it's the hardest one to be able to see clearly. It's the hardest to break, because there's nobody that just want to see their own people as fucked up. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to believe that. Who wants to think that their own parents is trying to kill them or their children? That's not something that people wake up and going, yeah, sure. Cinchi, sure. I'm just going to grade. I'm just going to, grade. It's all good. I'm just going to walk away. My mother and sisters are trying to kill me. Oh, okay. Like, that's some psychotic shit. It's hard to swallow. Then when it comes to your children, it's like it really get harder, because it's like you want to think that people have some kind of fucking decency in them. Some level, bitch. Nah, they don't. You don't. And it's a clear indication. All we have to do, collective, is trace our upbringing. And not the upbringing the show that was put on for the world and the public. The behind the scenes stuff that people didn't know about. This will tell you what kind of people that you were really dealing with. And what they were capable of. Was domestic violence normalized in your life? So you begin to co-create and recreate relationships just like it. You started creating romantic scenarios just like your daddy, just like your mama, or whoever raised you. Yep. One aspect of them or another. Because domestic violence, toxicity, all this stuff was normalized. Sure, it's normal. Be crazy and throw shit. And then have a barbecue next week. Sure. We love each other. That's deep love. That's toxicity. It's codependency. It's obsession. It's control. I say this stuff because nobody really want to do it. Because, that saving face energy, saving face. Nobody wants to do it. Sure, we talk about each other all day, every day. We talk about each other. Yes, that's what we do. If the walls would talk and tell the truth, it would be found out that we talk about each other. Okay? Like a junkyard dog. But when we get in one another's presence, it's something different. And we're normalizing it. It's normal. And worse yet, it be the older crew that feels entitled to respect. That's the worst part, because they're setting a shitty ass example. But they want you to watch how you talk to them. I don't think so. You done lost that. You done lost that. Do we yet see how twisted a lot of this culturalization is? We're respecting dishonorable conduct. People can treat us shitty, and we're supposed to respect that. People don't have to respect us, but we're supposed to respect them. We're supposed to care about how people feel, but people don't have to care about how we feel. You see how narcissistic that is? We're supposed to be taking into consideration how they feel, but they don't have to take into consideration how we feel. We're supposed to be trying to see it from their perspective, but they can give two flying fucks on trying to see it from yours. That's entitlement. 717. That may be significant. And until we prospectively, individually get into a place to be willing to sit with the ugly truth and deal with it for what it is, we'll continue to live in illusion. We'll continue to be in confusion. And we'll continue to recreate the same shit. We'll continue to accept the same shit. It's not normal to be beating up people, okay? It's a whole nother video when I'll have to do separate videos when I'm talking about defense, okay? Because each of us do have a right to preservation. If people are threatening of your life and your children's life in any way, shape, form, or fashion, you have a right to defense, even if it means taking them out. No one is expected to sit back and just allow, you see where I'm going with that? But outside of that type of thing, okay? Outside of that, just some rando shit, okay? Because somebody can't control their own emotions, their own anger, their own whatever the fuck wrong with them, okay? It's not okay. It is not something that anyone ought to be proud of or celebrating. Especially people who, in the same breath, want to call themselves anything to do with God, spiritual, whatever. Especially for them types. Because it don't go together. It's not okay to attempt to physically harm people. Whether this is by way of poisoning people, spell work, or attempted murder, physical altercation. Anyone operating in that is not well. Again, disclaimer, defense. We don't walk around passively. If motherfuckers want to come for you, then whatever they get is, I don't know what to say. I be getting stuck on that part because I'm like, I don't know why. How you going to get mad if the killer get killed? It's like, then don't come for people then, okay? If you don't want to die, okay? It's really simple. People act like it's hard. I'm like, this is simple to me. I don't get it. They be mad, and I'm like, but were y'all not coming for folks though? Like, if you don't want us to get got, then don't be trying to get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, leave folks alone. And I'm talking about on the high level to the medium to the low. I'm talking to all the groups, bitch. You heard? They know who they are. They know I know. People that like to kidnap and abduct kids and shit, but then say they're Christian. See, nobody wants to look at this kind of stuff. Nobody wants to talk about it. Was domestic violence normalized? And is it perhaps why you tolerated being abused for so long? Or for some people out there, why they became abusers? Some of that stuff that I saw growing up, and those are just, like I said, I've only shared with y'all some of the stuff. So I ain't shared some old shit. Some lot of shit that I saw, and I have full right to disclose and share because it's my experience too. We should not be wanting to be people that's willing to take advantage of any population, whether they're differently abled, like in the case I just shared with y'all with one of my ex-stepdads. Okay, I don't know what his full issue. I think he got hurt. I think what had happened to him is he had got hurt in the military. Okay, so I think something messed up. Okay, and but here's the point that I'm making. It's nothing for anybody to be proud of. This is sad. If we're calling ourselves decent, whatever verbiage that we're using to try to imply that we're good folk, or that we're changed, or that we're this, or that whatever it is, like, then there shouldn't be anything in us that would be driving us to want to take advantage of anybody for no benefit. Understood? For no benefit. Not a house, a car, money. It shows the decay of the condition of the soul. Being a good person goes far beyond just saying we're a good person. It goes far beyond donating to Make-A-Wish Foundation. It goes far beyond putting $1,000 in the bucket. It goes far beyond paying for somebody's cup of coffee at Starbucks. It goes far beyond delivering a plate of food. See, these are all acts, but being a good person is also the other things. It's standing for truth and justice. It's refusing to be a part of things that are unjust to innocent lives for gain or for nothing. See, being a good person is doing the hard things too. Doing the things that are not popular or inconvenient to your comforts of life because you won't get to live in a house that was never yours to begin with. Life, because you won't get to live in a house that was never yours to begin with. Life, because you won't get to live in a house that was never yours to begin with. People want to be a good person at convenience. Convenience, as long as it don't inconvenience their comforts. If being a good person is going to mean they got to be accountable to some shit and it's going to mess up their comforts, then they're not interested in being a good person. So then they're not a good person then. You don't celebrate abusers, you don't support abusers, you don't victim shame. That's a good person. These are the things that hopefully our children and grandchildren and whoever that we're taking care of, hopefully this is how we represent it. Because see, let me tell you something. Like I said, kids are more perceptive. They're not stupid. You put on a show all you want. You can sit up there and preach to them for hours and then give them sermons and shit. They watching you. They're sensitive to energy more than adults are usually. So they're watching you. Fuck what you saying. They're watching your ass. So they ain't trying to hear nothing about. See, and people get mad at that, but it's like, what are you doing? They're seeing if you're a person that can be held accountable. They're seeing if you're able, hell, can you mount up? You want to tell me to mount up? Can you? Can you? Can you? Can you own up? You want to tell me? Can you? Can you? You want to tell me to be the bigger person? Can you? Can you? You want to tell me to be truthful and honest? Can you? Can you? You want to tell me to go somewhere and heal? Can you heal? They're watching us. They watch what we celebrate. They watch our conversations that we have with our groups when we think they're not watching and when we think they're not paying any attention to us. They're watching how we treat people that we think we're better than. So we're teaching them to be sociopathic. We're normalizing it. Has domestic violence been normalized? Financial abuse, is that the standard? Especially in the black culture, is the major standard because it's that entitlement. Using your kids, your grandkids' information, stealing shit, doing shit. Those are forms of abuse. By the way, it's called financial abuse. It's called identity fraud. And are we normalizing that? So we can do this, so we can survive. Fuck the ramification that this may have on this individual. Fuck the simple fact that we didn't even get their fucking permission. Don't matter. But we'd be the first ones crying a river when the shit is done to us, huh? Listen, it's not normal, okay? This kind of stuff we've been culturalized into is not okay. It is not normal. These are forms of abuse and indicative of some really deep-rooted issues. It's not loving. It's not sticking together when everybody's faking. This is why these relationships be fucked up. And until we just fucking flat out admit it and say it and stop trying to make excuses for it, stop trying to save face because, oh my gosh, we don't want our reputation. Overly worried about that. We ought to be more concerned with the reality. We're more worried about reputation. How's it going to look? How about worry about how it is? Are you at all concerned about that? I want to say to you all out there who have, lived that way or seen that, experienced that, I'm sorry. For such shitty examples. But we don't have to stay there. We can become the change. We see this come out in readings all the time. Be the change. We say all these cute sayings. Be the change. Be the change. Be the change you want to see. But that means you have to actually be it, though. It doesn't stop until it stops, see? This stuff doesn't stop until it does. It doesn't stop until someone does. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry that it was all normalized. But we are not victims. You're not a victim. You have the power in your hands, your heart, your soul, to change the story from the inside out. Be different. Unless, for those of you who have children or grandchildren or great-grands, however you want to look at it, unless you want them to become the same shit. Because it's not going to be about what you sit up and say to them and you preach to them. It's the life choices that you're making. It's the energy. It's the environment. There's cause and effect for everything. And if we want to break that stuff, we must do it. No matter how uncomfortable it is. And as you do, you'll start to see more and more clearly, more and more truths. You'll feel more and more light, more and more free. And another thing is you can sit, you'll have a peaceful heart. Your heart, not saying every day will be perfect and every day, running through the tulips, but your heart, your soul, not troubled. Because you're not repeating toxic history. You're not adding to the shenanigans. Just because humanity has become professional at keeping things hidden and secret doesn't mean that it's not going to still have the same devastational effects. Think about that.